that you're taking from your position to make sure that we could prevent some of these frauds, and maybe talk about some of the things that residents can do to protect themselves, because sometimes once that money's left the bank account, as you talked about earlier, when we have overseas actors, when our subpoenas don't come back, or where we don't have the ability to claw back money, it's really hard. So a lot of this has to be done on the front end to protect ourselves from being victimized in the first place. So if you could talk about some of those issues, I'm sure our listeners and our viewers would appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you, General. So in my job, in our job, it feels like you can divide it into reactive work, which a lot of the public understands, responding to crime when somebody calls a police department or a prosecutor's office and says, hey, I've been victimized. But the other part of the job that's equally, if not more so important, is proactive messaging to the people that live in our jurisdictions and communities. And that's kind of what we've done during this pandemic. We took the same playbook that we did following Superstorm Sandy to really blast that information, knowledge being power, to educate the public about a lot of these different scams. And you mentioned the grandparent scam is one that we've put up. If you follow Monmouth County on Facebook and Twitter, we often do this, not just during the pandemic, but in regular normal operations as well. So we really take that educating the public seriously, because the goal is to have potential victims be hard targets, right? Craig mentioned earlier, you mentioned, General, the goal, the common theme, common thread is to try to get personally identifiable information. That's what drives a fraud, is the ability to take that private information and be able to defraud you and get some kind of an unjust or unfair illegal enrichment. That's social security numbers, bank, checking account, the traditional things, dates of birth, where they can go to steal your identity, your Medicare ID. And then what we do is we arm all of our police departments with this as well, not just the public, but we ask the police departments to be aware of these scams, to be aware of the telltale signs, to blast out to their local constituencies. And because in New Jersey, one of the blessings and the curse is the concept of home rule. In one way, it's great that we have a lot of police, fire, and EMS, but in another way, sometimes messaging can be difficult because of the layers of government. So that's an important piece that I think all of us prosecutors do. As far as the part about what we're doing, we're trying, like the U.S. Attorney pointed out, to be proactive in our enforcement. And there's a number of investigative techniques that we routinely undertake, which we don't generally disclose to the public, but suffice it today to say anybody who's interested or considering this type of criminal activity should know that we have detection methods in place to try to make your lives difficult. But I think, General, the most important thing is for citizens and people to make themselves hard targets. And the way to do that is to be ultra protective of this personally identifiable information. Make that extra phone call the bank, don't just respond on a computer or a telephone call. Break that call. If it's a family scam, call somebody in the family. Just be cautious and vigilant.